welcome back to another episode of Coach's Corner, Girls Volleyball Edition. I'm Spencer Barber, along with Dylan Graff for HWTV, and today we're joined with Coach Mitch Kallick. Let's jump right in. So, Coach, first off, can you tell us a little bit about your background with volleyball?
Sure. I started playing volleyball my freshman year of high school, actually, at Green Valley in Las Vegas. Actually, the reason why I got into it was because it was to help my basketball game. And then next thing I know, I was like, oh, I hit a ball for the first time. I was like, yep, I think this is a little more fun than basketball, so fell in love with it. Ended up playing at NYU for 4 years, was an All-American. I'm actually fortunate enough to be inducted into the NYU Hall of Fame a few years ago. After my career at NYU, went overseas to play professionally. Once I got back from playing professionally overseas, decided to make coaching my career. Started coaching at NYU once I got back from my pro career, once my pro career days were done. So went from NYU, and then my coaching carousel / vagabond years kind of started. Was coaching collegiately for 15 years, but it was stops at NYU, University of Tennessee, Cal State Fullerton, University of Maryland, Central Michigan University, and then my last stop in college was University of Hartford when I decided to get out of the college racket, and then shifted back to moved back to the West Coast, obviously, and where I started coaching, doing private lessons, and started coaching club, and then the opportunity here at Harvard Westlake opened up, and it was too good an opportunity to say no to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. I think we kind of want to start off with the game yesterday against Marymount.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, one of the tougher opponents probably in all of the nation. But what do you think went wrong in that one for you guys?
It's something we've been stressing a lot has been our first contact. So we've been talking about that a lot. It's one of the things that kind of felt that we did not execute it at the way that we know we can, the way we've shown so far this year. And a team like Marymount is going to be a very good aggressive serving team, and they're going to take advantage of some of your flaws. And they did a good job of that against us yesterday. We'll definitely be ready for them again when we play them in 2 weeks. I think we play them again in 2 weeks from Thursday, or 2 weeks from tomorrow. Geez, that's really fast. We're definitely be able to make some corrections, make some adjustments, and be ready to go from there. Marymount, as traditionally, has been one of the tougher teams, and not just in our league, but also in the region and the nation, honestly, because they are one of the few teams that have gone through an entire season undefeated. Some of those players I've known since they were like 12, so it's good to see their development, but now it shows us what we need to do to step up and get better at the same time too.
Yeah, I think one of the trends this season has kind of been starting a little bit cold. Those first sets aren't always going our way, even in games that we end up winning. How are you addressing that moving forward, and how have you already addressed it?
We just keep on talking about staying our course, making sure we're focusing on some of the small things, keep our focus small rather and managing our expectations. One thing is we talk about the team all the time is making sure we're removing that expectation level. Just go in and start playing rather than have an expectation of how is this game going to go, how is this game not going to go. Just go in and just start playing and go from there. We've done that with a little bit of mixed result, but a little of that is but the mental side of the game never changes immediately. It's one of those things you have to continually do over and over until it becomes a habit, because you form your habits as you're playing. Some of those habits have been formed for multiple years, so it takes a little bit of time to actually change that mental approach.
Coach, can you walk us through what a typical practice is like? And also, do you change anything in those practices based on any weaknesses you observe while the girls are playing?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do in terms of practice for the first 5-10 minutes is normally general ball control, ball warm-up stuff, where the girls are kind of just getting the rhythm of practice and stuff like that. Getting their arms arms warm, getting a lot of ball touches again. So we work on that first contact that we talked about, and then from there it's a myriad of different things. What is our focal point on for that week? Is it going to be serve receive? Is it going to be serving? Is it going to be attacking? Is it blocking? Kind of depends on what we're focusing on that week that we've seen that we needed to address. It kind of changes from that point, but we make sure a lot of it is as team focus and game focus as we possibly can make it.
Thank you. So going back to the tournament this past weekend, obviously a kind of slow start for the team, but they were really able to turn it around at the end and win 3 straight. What was the biggest difference you noticed between kind of how they entered that tournament and how they finished it?
Yeah, I think a lot of that was getting comfortable with we had some players step up. We went to the tournament down two players, which that never helps. So that we found information out early last week that we were going to be down 2 players and 2 starters, and that's never, never really good. And we fought pretty well in the first matches on Friday. You can definitely tell there was a little bit of sluggishness just because we played on Thursday night, and then coming into the tournament on Friday, a little bit of exhaustion, a little fatigue contributing to that, to how we started. And then we had some players step up and some things started clicking and connecting, and the team chemistry was really, really good on Saturday. A lot more communication, a lot more changes. We made some adjustments in terms of what our lineup was as a result of those 2 players being out. And you can see the results of what happened in the back half of that tournament. We played at a really, really high level.
Yeah, Coach, following up on Dylan's question, what were some of your takeaways from that tournament in Vegas?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest takeaways was Kelsey Kim stepped up huge in the last 2 to 3 matches of that tournament. So really saw the player that she can be, the player that I knew that was always inside of her. She started releasing that person and started just going and being a lot more aggressive, something we've been asking her to do throughout the year. She finally started understanding that role and started stepping into it, especially as a senior captain. She started taking on a little more of that let's go mentality, which is what we kind of needed from her at that point. That was one of my big takeaways. Another is some of the development of some of our younger players, like Maya Stillwell, who's only a sophomore. I mean, I think she started hitting the ball with a lot more pace than something we've been asking her to do all year. She's fortunate enough to have a lot of length and height on that, just as what she's naturally come by, which is you're like, hey, that's awesome. And now she's starting to understand how to leverage that to her advantage. Even last night too, still in the match last night, she did that as well. She was up for some swings, got some nice blocks, got some nice touches. That's what we expect out of her more. We expect more consistency out of her. I mean, she's only a sophomore, so we don't want to put too much pressure on her in terms of that, too much expectation, but we want to make sure that she's still growing and developing.
Yeah, sounds good, Coach. Who stepped up this year into a key role with the loss of players such as Ava Lang, Grace Thrower, and Avery Jones?
Yeah, I think the 2 biggest players who've honestly stepped up have been our 2 captains, and that's been Kelsey Kim and Chloe Dolkert. Their leadership has been really, really immeasurable, invaluable for this team and what they've been able to do for it in terms of who they've been as senior captains, as senior leaders. What they've been able to do for this team has been really, really impressive. I'm really happy with what they've been doing as pretty much like the torchbearers until they move on for that next generation, the next class.
Yeah, sounds good.
I was talking to them before this, and I heard a big focus is kind of keeping that team morale high. What would you say is the best way for them to go about doing that?
Just making sure we're focusing on small goals, right? Not making sure I am not a big person that's result oriented in terms of that. I believe the score takes care of itself. So we have to make sure that what we're focusing on is the smaller things, the small details that will end up leading to success and end up leading to those scoreboards going more in our favor than against us. So I think a lot of that is like, hey, let's make sure it's small, measurable goals that we can attain versus high in the pie sky. Like, yes, everyone wants to win a league championship. Everyone wants to win a Southern Section championship. But what are you willing to do to get there? And what's realistic at the same time, too? So that's one of the things we really make sure we're doing our best at is to have those small attainable goals that we can sit there and that are measurable, that we can sit there and go week after week, day after day. Like, did we hit this? Did we not hit this?
Coach, you've mentioned Kelsey Kim and Chloe Dolkart as your 2 senior captains and leaders, but is there anyone else you want to name who stepped up into a leadership role this year?
I think Maya Stillwell is stepping up pretty big time into leadership role as well. We mentioned her earlier. She's only a sophomore, but she's been doing pretty good. She's been doing a good job of asking the right questions, of being positive. We left the match last night and heard her say, "Good job, ladies." And there were some aspects that we did do a good job of last night. So it's good to hear that from her. We've seen some other players take it. Other than that, there's been some other players at different points in time who have all stepped up. So it hasn't just been one person.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Coach. I'm Dylan Graff with Spencer Barber for HWTV, and we'll see you next time. Go Wolverines.
Go Wolverines.